Ancient people mapped the heavens with impossible precision. How could civilizations without telescopes track stars and predict eclipses so perfectly? We still struggle to explain their advanced astronomical knowledge today, from the pyramids pointing to Orion's belt to intricate calendars that rival our own. These are not just random artifacts. They are clues to a forgotten chapter in human history. By the end of this journey, you will discover 25 unexplained cases that challenge the very timeline of science and invention. How did a 2,000-year-old Greek device compute planetary movements? Why does a 3,600-year-old bronze disk chart the sun and moon? This exploration will reveal a world where ancient genius defies all expectations. What does our past truly hide about the stars? A storm-tossed ship sinks off the coast of a Greek island around 100 BC, its secret cargo settling into the seabed for 2,000 years. In the early 20th century, sponge divers stumbled upon the wreck, bringing up a corroded lump of bronze and wood that seemed utterly unremarkable. Yet this object, now known as the Antikythera Mechanism, would become one of the most profound archaeological discoveries of all time. It was not a statue or a weapon, but a machine. A complex clockwork device of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, housed in a wooden case no larger than a shoebox. This was in essence an ancient analog computer. Turning its hand crank would have set the gears in motion, moving delicate pointers across several dials on the front and back. These dials did not tell the time of day, but the time of the cosmos. They predicted the movements of the sun and the moon, the positions of known planets, and even the timing of lunar and solar eclipses. One dial could even account for the irregular orbit of the moon, a subtlety modern science only explains with complex gravitational theory. This mechanism was a portable, precise model of the heavens themselves. Its existence around 100 BC shatters our conventional timeline of technology. We used to believe such intricate geared devices only emerged in Europe during the 14th century. The Antikythera Mechanism predates them by over a millennium. Who built this and for what purpose? Was it a teaching tool for philosophers, a rich man's toy, or a navigational aid for sailors? The debate is fierce. We have no blueprints, no creator's name, and no other devices like it from that era. It stands as a lonely, stunning relic of a technological sophistication we never knew the ancient world possessed. Deep within the stone chambers of the Temple of Hathor in Egypt, a ceiling tells a silent, starry story. Carved into a massive sandstone slab is the Dendera Zodiac, a breathtaking bas-relief map of the heavens. This intricate circular chart is not a simple decoration. It is a detailed cosmic diagram depicting the constellations of the zodiac we recognize today, from Taurus the bull to Leo the lion. But it goes further, illustrating 5 known planets moving through their celestial paths, all centered around the North Pole star. The precision is astonishing, a snapshot of the night sky frozen in stone. The controversy, however, erupts when we ask when this snapshot was taken. The temple itself dates to the Greco-Roman period, roughly around the 1st century BC. Yet the celestial arrangement shown on the ceiling appears to map the stars from a much earlier era. Some interpretations of the symbols and planetary positions suggest they correspond to a sky from over 10,000 years ago, a time when human civilization was in its very infancy. How could the priests of Hathor have known this? Were they working from star charts passed down through countless generations, preserving an ancient astronomy that stretched back into a lost age? Or does the Dendera Zodiac encode a different kind of knowledge, a sophisticated understanding of the slow wobble of Earth's axis, a cycle that takes 26,000 years to complete? This single carving implies that the temple's builders possessed not just observational skill, but a deep, scientific comprehension of cosmic time, knowledge that seems to defy the very timeline of human progress. That same celestial knowledge appears again, over 1,000 years earlier, and in a place we would least expect it. In the misty forests of Central Europe, around the year 1600 BC, a culture we often call primitive was forging a vision of the cosmos in bronze and gold. The Nebra sky disk was discovered by amateur treasure hunters in Germany, a find so extraordinary it was initially dismissed as a forgery. But it is genuine, the oldest known concrete depiction of the sky anywhere in the world. This small, circular bronze disc is inlaid with golden symbols that shine with profound meaning. A large circle represents the sun or perhaps the full moon. A crescent shape is unmistakably a waxing or waning moon. Scattered between them are 32 smaller stars and one particularly tight cluster of 7. This cluster is almost certainly the Pleiades, the famous Seven Sisters star group that has featured in myths and calendars across the globe for millennia. But the true genius of the disk lies on its edges. 2 golden arcs were later added, one on each side. Their precise curvature matches the range of the sun's movement along the horizon between summer and winter solstices. This was not just a pretty picture, it was a functional instrument. By aligning the disk with the local landscape, a Bronze Age priest or chieftain could determine the correct time for planting and harvest, a matter of life and death. The final addition is the most telling, a 3rd arc at the bottom, often called the solar bark, a mythical boat carrying the sun through the underworld at night. This single object fuses precise astronomy with deep mythology. The most staggering implication, however, is its potential use as a calendar. The 32 stars may correspond to the years in a cycle. The presence of the Pleiades, which disappears and reappears in a specific pattern, combined with the sun and moon symbols, suggests an understanding of a long-term rhythm. This is the Metonic cycle, a 19-year period after which the phases of the moon realign with the same dates in the solar year. Modern science confirms this 19-year lunisolar cycle, but we credit its discovery to the Greek astronomer Meton in the 5th century BC. The Nebra sky disk, crafted over 1,000 years earlier, seems to already hold this secret. How could a seemingly isolated, illiterate culture in the heart of Bronze Age Europe encode such a sophisticated astronomical principle in metal? This was not a society of grand pyramids or written records. Their knowledge was passed down orally and forged into sacred objects. The disk forces us to reconsider the intellectual landscape of prehistoric Europe, a world where deep cosmic wisdom was held not in libraries but in the stars themselves and in the hands of those who knew how to read them. While the Nebra sky disk charted the seasons on land, another ancient people solved a celestial riddle on the open sea. Viking sagas speak of a magical tool, the solarstein or sunstone. These texts describe navigators using this stone to locate the sun on completely overcast days, even when it was hidden below the horizon. For centuries, this was dismissed as pure myth. How could anyone find an invisible sun? The answer lies not in magic, but in a remarkable property of light. Scientists now propose the sunstone was a crystal known as Iceland spar, a form of calcite that is naturally transparent. This crystal acts as a polarizing filter. Sunlight passing through our atmosphere becomes polarized, creating a distinct pattern in the sky that is invisible to our naked eyes. When you look through a piece of Iceland spar and rotate it, the image you see splits in two, appearing as a double. The crystal's magic is that these two images will change in brightness depending on your orientation to the hidden sun. By rotating the stone until the two images match in intensity, a Viking navigator could pinpoint the exact position of the sun with an accuracy of within 1 degree. This was not a vague guess, it was a precise scientific measurement. Modern experiments have proven this theory works astonishingly well, even in twilight or when the sun has just set. Picture a Viking longship battling the gray waves of the North Atlantic. The sky is a solid sheet of cloud, the wind is fierce, and there are no landmarks for 1,000 miles. In this featureless void, a navigator pulls out his sunstone. He holds it up to the sky, slowly turning it in his hands, watching the light within the crystal shift and change. He finds the point where the light balances, and he now has an unwavering line pointing directly to the sun. With that single fixed point, he could set his course for Iceland, Greenland, or even the coast of North America. This was technology that gave them a celestial compass when their entire world was shrouded in fog. It explains how they could undertake such daring voyages across vast stretches of ocean with a confidence that once seemed impossible. The sunstone stands as a testament to a different kind of genius, one that used the subtle physics of light to conquer the greatest wilderness on Earth. Far from the foggy North Atlantic, in the humid jungles of Central America, another civilization was mastering time itself. The Maya did not merely observe the sky, they wove it into the very fabric of their existence, creating calendars of such complexity and accuracy they rival our own. Their grand long count calendar measured vast cycles of time, but their most stunning astronomical work is found in a more fragile artifact, the Dresden Codex. This ancient bark paper book, one of the few to survive the conquest, contains a section known as the eclipse table. It is not a simple list, but a sophisticated chart designed to predict lunar and solar eclipses with stunning reliability over a span of more than 33 years. The Maya achieved this not through telescopes, but through relentless, generations-long observation. They had identified a celestial rhythm we call the Saros cycle, a period of approximately 18 years and 11 days after which the Sun, Earth, and Moon returned to nearly the same relative positions, causing a similar eclipse to repeat. The Maya calculated this cycle with breathtaking precision, tracking the intricate dance of the Moon's nodes, the 2 points where its path crosses the Sun's. To them, an eclipse was not a neutral scientific event. It was a moment of cosmic danger and profound spiritual significance. They saw the Moon or Sun being consumed, a celestial battle between gods that threatened to plunge their world into chaos. The ability to predict an eclipse was therefore a source of immense power for Maya priests and rulers. It was a demonstration of their ability to communicate with the gods, to foresee cosmic upheaval, and to perform the necessary rituals to ensure the sun would be reborn and the world would continue. Imagine the scene in a Maya city on the day a predicted eclipse was to occur. The people would have gathered, their eyes fixed on the sky, watching as their priests' calculations came to life. As the shadow began to creep across the sun, the priests would have led ceremonies, perhaps sacrifices, to strengthen the sun god in his struggle. The accuracy of the eclipse table was not just intellectual, it was a matter of societal survival, a way to maintain order in the face of perceived cosmic disorder. This deep, cyclical understanding of time and the heavens, encoded in a painted book, stands as a monument to a different path to knowledge, one built on pattern, patience, and a profound belief that the sky was alive. The Maya saw eclipses as celestial battles, but in ancient China, these events were recorded with the stark clarity of a state archive. Over 3,000 years ago, during the Shang dynasty, royal diviners pressed questions into ox scapulae and turtle plastrons with a hot bronze pin. The cracks that spiderwebbed across the bone were interpreted as answers from the ancestors, and then the entire exchange, the question and the outcome, was carved directly into the surface. These oracle bones are our earliest evidence of Chinese writing, and they contain some of humanity's oldest and most precise astronomical records. Among the inscriptions concerning harvests, warfare, and childbirth, we find chillingly direct accounts. One bone asks, will there be misfortune associated with the upcoming solar eclipse? Another simply records the stark fact: on the day Giyu, a solar eclipse occurred. Modern astronomers can take these ancient dates, like the one noted for a lunar eclipse on the night of the winter solstice, and run their calculations backwards. The alignment is perfect. The events described on the bones match the celestial mechanics of the Shang era with undeniable accuracy. This was more than just observation, it was meticulous documentation. The duality of purpose is what makes these records so profound. For the Shang king, an eclipse was a terrifying omen, a sign that the cosmic order was disrupted and his mandate to rule was under threat. By recording the event, he was not only creating a historical log, he was capturing a moment of divine communication. The bone itself was the medium, a sacred object that had literally spoken with the gods. The act of inscribing the outcome solidified the king's role as the intermediary between heaven and earth. He was proving that he could not only survive a celestial warning but could document it, learn from it, and perhaps even predict its patterns to avert future calamity. This fusion of the spiritual and the scientific created a powerful incentive for relentless sky watching. The need to understand the gods' messages drove the Shang to become impeccable astronomers. Their legacy, etched in bone, reveals a civilization that looked to the heavens to govern the earth, finding in the predictable chaos of eclipses both a divine threat and a practical guide to power. The celestial precision of the Giza pyramids defies simple explanation. The Great Pyramid's base is aligned to the cardinal directions with a margin of error of just 3/60ths of a degree. To put that into perspective, this is a level of accuracy that would be impressive even with modern laser tools and GPS technology. How could a civilization working over 4,500 years ago achieve such perfection? The sides run almost perfectly north-south and east-west. This was not a happy accident, but a deliberate, breathtaking feat of engineering and astronomy. Inside the massive stone structure, narrow, steeply sloping passages, often called air shafts, pierce the core from the king's and queen's chambers. For a long time, their purpose was a complete mystery. We now understand these narrow tunnels were not for ventilation, but were precisely angled to point directly at specific stars. One shaft from the king's chamber aimed squarely at Thuban, the star that served as the North Pole star during the pyramid's construction. Another was targeted at the belt of the constellation Orion, which the Egyptians associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. These alignments were almost certainly spiritual gateways. The ancient Egyptians believed the pharaoh's soul would ascend directly to these immortal stars to join the gods. The pyramid was not just a tomb, it was a colossal launchpad for a divine journey, a machine built of stone to guide a spirit through the cosmos. The debate over how they built this celestial map rages on. Some suggest they used the circumpolar stars, tracking their rotation around the celestial pole to find true north. Others propose a method using the shadows cast by a gnomon, a simple vertical stick during the autumn equinox, yet each theory encounters challenges. The circumpolar method requires incredibly precise timekeeping over long nights. The shadow method demands a perfectly flat plane and an exact observation of the sun's movement. The sheer scale of the pyramid magnifies any tiny error in its initial layout, making their near-perfect success all the more baffling. Were the builders using a lost technique, a form of knowledge we have not yet rediscovered? This stone giant on the Giza Plateau stands as a silent, enduring question, its sides pointing not just to the poles but to the profound depths of ancient understanding. Across the English Channel, another field of ancient stones whispers of a different cosmic obsession. In the French region of Brittany, the Karnak alignments stretch for miles, a breathtaking landscape of more than 3,000 standing stones erected over 6,000 years ago. Arranged in long, parallel rows, these megaliths march across the countryside like a petrified army. For centuries, their purpose was a complete enigma, seen as everything from a Roman legion turned to stone to a purely religious site. Then, in the 20th century, an Oxford engineer named Alexander Thom proposed a radical idea. After meticulously surveying hundreds of stone circles and rows across Britain and France, he became convinced that Karnak was not a temple but an instrument. He argued it was a sophisticated lunar observatory, built with a precision that rivals modern scientific instruments. The key lies in the moon's complex dance. Unlike the sun, which has a simple yearly cycle between the solstices, the moon has a much longer and more subtle rhythm. Over a period of approximately 18.6 years, the point on the horizon where the moon rises and sets slowly shifts north and south. The extremes of this swing are known as the major and minor lunar standstills. At Karnak, Tom and others found that specific lines of stones and key gaps between them aligned perfectly with these extreme rising and setting points. One menhir, or single standing stone, might mark the northernmost moonrise of the major standstill, while a distant gap in a stone row could frame the southernmost moonset of the minor standstill 18 years later. This was not about marking a single night, but about tracking a cosmic clock that ticked over a generation. To a Neolithic society, this long cycle would have been profoundly important, perhaps governing rituals, social gatherings, or long-term calendars that connected them to the rhythm of the cosmos itself. The controversy, however, is fierce. Many archaeologists question whether we are imposing modern scientific thinking onto a culture for whom the stones held a more spiritual, symbolic meaning. Could these alignments be coincidental, the result of thousands of stones being erected over centuries? Yet the sheer number of potential alignments at Karnak is difficult to dismiss. It suggests a society that looked to the sky not just for myth, but for measurement, building a colossal, open-air laboratory to comprehend a celestial pattern so slow it would take a lifetime to observe in full. High on the arid plains of Peru, a desert canvas holds secrets only visible from the sky. The Nazca lines are a sprawling collection of massive geoglyphs, enormous figures and clean, straight lines etched into the rocky soil. From the ground, they are confusing trenches, but from above, they transform into a gallery of staggering scale, depicting a hummingbird, a spider, a monkey, and a man with staring eyes. For decades, wild theories have swirled around them, suggesting runways for ancient astronauts. But the truth, as uncovered by dedicated researchers like Maria Reich, is far more fascinating and grounded in the sky itself. Reich, a German mathematician who devoted her life to studying the lines, proposed a compelling astronomical hypothesis. She believed the Nazca Plateau was a giant celestial calendar, a sacred map drawn on a monumental scale. Many of the long, arrow-straight lines point directly to the spot on the horizon where the sun rises or sets during the solstices. Other lines align with the rising points of important stars and constellations, particularly the Pleiades cluster, which was critically important to Andean cultures for timing the agricultural cycle. The animal figures may also hold cosmic meaning, with some researchers suggesting they mirror star patterns. This was not just art, it was a functional, ritualistic landscape. The lines likely served as processional pathways for ceremonies tied to the heavens. During a solstice, a line of priests could walk the precise path that pointed toward the rising sun, physically connecting with the cosmic event. The entire desert became a temple without walls, an observatory where the sky and earth met. The question of execution is just as baffling as the purpose. How did the Nazca culture between 200 BC and 600 AD design and create these perfect, massive forms without the ability to fly? The answer lies in simple, brilliant technology. They likely used a series of stakes and ropes to scale up small models into the gigantic geoglyphs we see today. By maintaining constant angles and proportions, they could transfer a design across kilometers. The desert itself helped preserve their work with its stable climate and a surface of dark stones covering light soil. Removing the top layer of stones created a contrasting line that has endured for millennia. This was a communal act of staggering organization, a society so in tune with the heavens that they chose to redraw them across the earth, turning their entire world into a reflection of the cosmos above. In 1513, a Turkish admiral named Piri Reis compiled a world map that would ignite a firestorm of controversy centuries later. His detailed chart, drawn on gazelle skin, shows the coastlines of Europe, Africa, and the newly discovered Americas with remarkable accuracy. But its most baffling feature lies at the bottom. The map appears to depict a vast southern landmass, its contours shockingly similar to the coastline of Antarctica, a continent buried under miles of ice. This was drawn in 1513, yet Antarctica would not be officially sighted by European explorers for another 300 years. Even more incredible, the coastline on the Piri Reis map does not show the glacial ice cap that has entombed the continent for millions of years. It shows the land as it would appear if it were free of ice. Admiral Reis himself provided a crucial clue in his marginal notes. He openly stated that his map was not an original work of exploration, but a compilation. He wrote that he had used about 20 older source maps, some of them dating back to the time of Alexander the Great in the 4th century BC. This admission suggests he was copying from far more ancient documents, charts drawn by a civilization with knowledge of the entire globe. The implications are staggering. Could an advanced seafaring culture have mapped the world, including an ice-free Antarctica, thousands of years before recorded history? For this to be possible, such a mapping expedition would have had to occur in a remote geological epoch, a time when Antarctica's coasts were indeed temperate and free of ice, a window that closed over 6 million years ago. The mainstream scientific view fiercely rejects this interpretation. Skeptics argue the southern landmass is simply a speculative, distorted version of South America, a common cartographic error of the period. They point out that the map lacks critical details of the actual Antarctic interior and suggest the accuracy of the coastline is coincidental. Yet the precision of certain geographical points continues to give researchers pause. The debate over the Piri Reis map is more than a cartographic puzzle. It is a battle over the timeline of human discovery. If it truly preserves a fragment of an ancient world map, then our entire understanding of prehistoric exploration is fundamentally incomplete. This single artifact suggests that the same forgotten cultures who charted the stars may have also mastered the oceans, leaving behind a ghostly outline of a world we are only now beginning to rediscover. This curiosity comes not from a grand temple but from a simple clay jar. In the 1930s, workers excavating near Baghdad uncovered a collection of peculiar artifacts dating back 2,000 years to the Parthian or Sassanid era. Each object was a small, ovoid pot of bright yellow clay about the size of a man's fist. Sealed inside with a plug of asphalt was a rolled copper sheet forming a cylinder. And suspended down the center of this copper cylinder was a solid iron rod. The components were isolated from one another, held firmly in place by the asphalt stopper. To any modern engineer, the arrangement is instantly recognizable. This is the basic design of a simple battery, a galvanic cell. If the jar were filled with an acidic or alkaline liquid like vinegar or grape juice, a chemical reaction would occur. The acidic electrolyte would interact with the two different metals, causing electrons to flow from the iron rod to the copper cylinder through the liquid. This would generate a small but measurable electric current, around 1 or 2 volts. That is enough power to produce a mild tingle on the tongue, or to cause a small gold object to electroplate onto a silver surface. This is where the theory ignites. Were these jars ancient batteries? The idea is controversial, as no wires or other components have ever been found with them. Yet experiments with replicas prove they can indeed function. If they were used for electroplating, it would explain the existence of mysteriously fine gold-plated artifacts from the same period, objects that seem too perfectly coated for traditional fire gilding techniques. But the implications could reach far beyond mere metalworking. A steady, low-level electric current, even from a simple cell, could have powered other devices. Imagine a series of these jars connected together, creating a stronger current. Could this have been used to power a light, perhaps for illuminating dark chambers during celestial observations? Or maybe it was part of a larger, unknown instrument, a device for sensing or measuring that has been lost to time. We may never know their true purpose, but the mere existence of the Baghdad battery forces a profound question. Did an ancient culture stumble upon the principles of electricity, harnessing it for practical use over a millennium before it was officially discovered? This unassuming clay pot challenges the very bedrock of our scientific timeline, suggesting that the spark of invention may have flickered in the distant past, only to be extinguished and forgotten. Within the shadowed halls of the Temple of Seti in Abydos, a wall of hieroglyphs holds a mystery that seems to defy time itself. Among the traditional symbols of scarabs and gods, a cluster of carvings stands out with jarring familiarity. One looks unmistakably like a modern helicopter, complete with a cockpit and a tail rotor. Beside it, other forms resemble a submarine, a hovercraft, and even a futuristic jet plane. These are not faint scratches or vague shapes, but clear, deliberate carvings that appear to depict complex machinery from our own era, etched into stone over 3,000 years ago. The mainstream archaeological explanation for this anomaly is both simple and practical. It is a palimpsest, a term for a surface that has been reused. In this case, the original hieroglyphs, which likely spelled out the many names and titles of Seti I, were covered with a layer of plaster. His son, Ramses the Great, then carved his own titles and epithets over this fresh surface. Over centuries, the plaster has eroded and fallen away. What we see today is not one image, but 2 or even 3 sets of carvings overlapping. The supposedly modern machines are simply the accidental, chaotic fusion of older and newer hieroglyphs. The helicopter's body might be the result of a ram's horn from one inscription overlapping with a leg and an arm from another, all viewed from a specific angle by our pattern-seeking brain. This is a known phenomenon in archaeology, and similar overlaps exist elsewhere, though none are quite as visually striking as those at Abydos. Yet, for those who question this official story, the explanation feels insufficient. The alternative theory argues that the images are far too coherent and detailed to be mere random overlaps. Proponents point out that the helicopter glyph, known formally as the Abydos carvings, maintains a consistent, recognizable form from multiple viewing angles and under different lighting conditions. If these are indeed legitimate depictions, the implications are earth-shattering. They would suggest that the ancient Egyptians either possessed a technological knowledge so advanced it has been completely lost to history, or that they witnessed such technology firsthand, perhaps from a more sophisticated, now vanished culture, or even from an outside, non-human source. This theory forces us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that our linear timeline of progress is a comforting illusion, and that flashes of advanced science may have appeared and disappeared long before our own industrial age. The wall at Abydos thus becomes a Rorschach test for our view of history. Do we see a simple, explainable accident of erosion, or do we see a ghostly echo of a forgotten world, a message from the past that we are only now equipped to understand but never truly able to prove? A geode split open in 1961 revealed a secret that should not have been. Found inside a lump of solid rock near Olancha, California, the object was metallic and strangely mechanical. It consisted of a circular ceramic insulator and a central metal rod, all encased within a hexagonal copper sheath. To the geologists who first saw it, it looked exactly like a modern spark plug. The rock itself was dated by one analysis to be 500,000 years old, an age that would place this mechanical artifact deep in the Pleistocene epoch, a time of woolly mammoths and early humans who had only just begun to use simple stone tools. The story of the Koso artifact, as it became known, spread like wildfire. It was hailed as the ultimate OOP art, an out-of-place artifact, a piece of advanced technology found in a context where it simply did not belong. It seemed to be undeniable proof that a sophisticated civilization, or perhaps even visitors from elsewhere, had walked the earth in an impossibly distant past. The mystery, however, unraveled under closer scrutiny. Decades later, a detailed investigation using modern X-ray technology revealed the truth. The object was indeed a spark plug, but not from a lost civilization. It was a Champion brand spark plug from the early 1920s, a type commonly used in Model T Ford engines. The so-called geode was not a 500,000-year-old rock formation at all. It was a concretion, a hard mineral nodule that can form remarkably quickly around a foreign object, especially in mineral-rich environments. The spark plug had likely been lost by a miner or a prospector in the 1920s, and in just a few decades, a hard casing of iron oxide and clay had cemented around it, creating the illusion of immense age. Yet, even with this clear and rational explanation, the legend of the Coso artifact refuses to die. It persists in fringe archaeology circles as a powerful symbol. Why does this story hold such enduring appeal? It taps into a deep-seated fascination with anomalies, with objects that seem to break the rules of history. The artifact represents the thrilling possibility that our timeline is wrong, that technology has risen and fallen in cycles we have yet to comprehend. It is a ghost from a future that arrived in the past, a reminder that our understanding of history is built on fragments, and that some fragments will always defy easy categorization. The Coso artifact may be a modern object in a young rock, but its true power lies in the questions it forces us to ask. How many other dismissed artifacts might be genuine mysteries, and when we find something that does not fit, do we question the object or do we question the timeline itself? A single silver coin, no larger than a thumbnail, was unearthed from the mud of a Native American shell midden in Maine. This was the Maine penny, minted between 1067 and 1093 during the reign of King Olaf Kyrre of Norway. Its discovery among stone tools and fired clay pottery sent a shockwave through the archaeological world. Here was a tangible piece of Europe, buried in a prehistoric Native American site, centuries before Christopher Columbus set sail. The coin's presence in Maine is a profound puzzle. We know the Norse reached North America, establishing a small settlement at Elance Ox Meadows in Newfoundland around the year 1000. But that site is over 1,000 miles to the north of the Maine coast. This tiny coin raises a staggering possibility that Norse explorers ventured much further south along the Atlantic seaboard than we have ever been able to prove. Did a Viking longship sail down the coast, perhaps trading with the native Penobscot people? The coin itself, a small denomination piece of little intrinsic value, fits the profile of a trade item. Alternatively, it could have arrived through extensive indigenous trade networks that moved goods across the continent. A Norse trader in the far north might have exchanged it with one group, and over generations it was passed from hand to hand, traveling hundreds of miles south until it was finally lost in Maine. This theory makes the coin less a marker of direct Norse presence and more a testament to the vast, interconnected trade routes that existed long before European colonization. The debate hinges on this very point. Was the Maine penny dropped from a Viking purse, or was it a treasured curiosity passed between native villages? The implications for Norse exploration are immense. If they did sail to Maine, how did they navigate such an unfamiliar coastline? Their legendary sunstones could guide them across the open ocean, but coastal piloting required different skills. Did they use their knowledge of the stars to chart their way south, observing new constellations in a new world? The Maine penny offers no easy answers. It is a solitary data point, a whisper of contact that refuses to be silenced. It suggests that the Viking chapter in the Americas may have been richer, more complex, and far more extensive than the single, lonely outpost at Elance Ox Meadows implies. Deep in the river deltas of Costa Rica, hundreds of stone spheres lie scattered like giant marbles dropped by the gods. Ranging from the size of a basketball to colossal orbs over 2 meters in diameter and weighing many tons, these objects are almost perfectly spherical, their surfaces smooth to an impossible finish. They were crafted by the Diquis culture, a people who flourished from around 700 AD until the Spanish arrival in 1530. The mystery is not just how they were made with only stone tools and hammerstones, but why. What drove this society to invest such immense effort into creating these geometric marvels? One compelling theory connects them directly to the heavens. When first discovered by modern explorers in the 1930s, many of the spheres were found arranged in specific patterns, in lines, triangles, and large circles. Locals had already moved many, using them as curious decorations in their yards, forever destroying their original contexts. But from the records of early finds, a celestial idea emerged. These arrangements may have been massive terrestrial models of star constellations. A cluster of spheres could represent the Pleiades, while a long, straight line might mirror the Milky Way. Other spheres, placed alone on high ground, could have served as fixed astronomical markers. A large sphere positioned at a ceremonial site might have been aligned so that on a solstice or equinox, its shadow would fall upon a specific point, or it would line up with the rising sun over a distant mountain. This would transform the sphere from a static object into a dynamic solar and lunar calendar, a stone clock tracking the passage of seasons. The creation process itself is an enigma that hints at sophisticated knowledge. Makers likely selected large boulders, using fire to heat the stone and then cooling it rapidly with water to create fractures. They would then painstakingly peck and grind away the surface with harder stones, perhaps using sand and water as an abrasive. But achieving such near-perfect roundness without modern measuring tools seems almost supernatural. How did they check their work? One method might have involved a simple string. By fixing a cord to a central pivot point on the rough sphere and marking the outer surface, they could have identified high spots to grind down, iterating until the distance from the center to the surface was uniform. This technique demonstrates a profound grasp of geometry and patience, a project that could have taken a generation for the largest spheres. The Diquis left no written records to explain their purpose, and their world was shattered by European conquest. These silent stone spheres remain. Their perfect forms a testament to a culture that looked to the sky and sought to capture its order here on Earth, leaving behind a planetary puzzle we are still trying to solve. A book exists that has defied every attempt to read it for over 500 years. The Voynich manuscript is a 240-page codex, written entirely in an unknown script and illustrated with baffling images. Its pages are filled with plants that do not match any known species on Earth, their roots and leaves arranged in impossible configurations. Other sections show intricate astrological diagrams with circular charts containing stars and symbols that correspond to no recognized constellations. These are not the familiar patterns of Taurus or Orion, but entirely new arrangements of the night sky, mapping a cosmos that is alien to our own. Nude female figures appear to bathe in or be connected by a system of strange, green pools and tubes, suggesting a biological or alchemical process we cannot comprehend. The text itself, flowing in a neat, cursive hand, is the heart of the mystery. It uses an alphabet of around 20 to 30 unique characters, yet it follows linguistic patterns that suggest a real, structured language. Statistical analysis shows word entropy and letter distribution similar to known tongues like Latin or Arabic, proving it is not random gibberish. This only deepens the enigma. The world's top cryptographers, including codebreakers from both world wars, have applied their skills and failed. Computers running complex algorithms have searched for patterns and come up empty. Every proposed solution, from a simple cipher to a complex lost language, has crumbled under scrutiny. The manuscript resists all interpretation, so what are we looking at? The theories are as varied as they are contentious. Some argue it is an elaborate Renaissance hoax crafted to deceive a wealthy patron. Yet the sheer consistency and complexity of the work, with its hundreds of pages, makes this seem like an impossibly tedious and pointless fraud. Others propose it is a codebook for alchemical secrets, its bizarre plants representing symbolic ingredients in a hidden recipe for the philosopher's stone. The most tantalizing possibility is that it is exactly what it appears to be, a genuine scientific or herbal treatise from a culture that remains completely unknown to history. Perhaps it records the botanical and astronomical knowledge of a society that was lost to time, its unique view of the stars and its native flora preserved only in these cryptic pages. The Voynich manuscript is a locked door in the library of human knowledge. We can see that there is something profound inside, but the key has been lost for centuries, leaving us to wonder if it contains mere forgotten nonsense or the blueprint to an entirely different understanding of the natural world. The silent stone giants of Easter Island gaze inland, but the true secret lies beneath their feet. These iconic Moai statues are not solitary sentinels. They stand upon massive stone platforms called ahu, and these foundations are far more than mere pedestals. They are celestial calendars built on a monumental scale. Researchers have discovered that many of these ahu are precisely aligned with the cosmos. The long, central axis of these platforms often points directly toward the spot on the horizon where the sun rises or sets during the equinoxes, those 2 days of the year when day and night are of equal length. Other ahu align with the solstice sun or with important stars that would have guided navigation across the endless Pacific. This was not a coincidence. For the Rapa Nui people, the ahu were sacred ceremonial centers, the heart of their spiritual and community life. By building these platforms to capture specific solar events, they were physically anchoring their world to the rhythm of the heavens. The equinox sunrise, for instance, would have been a powerful annual event. As the sun broke the horizon, its rays would shoot directly down the platform's axis, illuminating the sacred space and the towering moai in a blaze of light. This transformed an abstract astronomical event into a visceral, community-wide experience, reinforcing the connection between their ancestors, represented by the statues, and the life-giving power of the sun. The sheer isolation of Easter Island makes this achievement all the more profound. This is the most remote inhabited island on Earth, a tiny speck of land thousands of miles from any continent. The Rapa Nui people built this complex society entirely on their own, with no outside influence for centuries. They not only discovered how to move and erect statues weighing up to 80 tons across miles of rugged terrain, but they also encoded a sophisticated understanding of solar movements into their most important architecture. This suggests a culture that was intensely observant, tracking the sun's slow migration year after year, generation after generation, until they could predict its path with enough certainty to build permanent stone markers. Their entire world was this island, and so their cosmos was mapped directly onto its landscape. The ahu are a testament to a universal human impulse to find order in the sky and to build that order into the very foundations of our lives, creating a sacred harmony between Earth, people, and the cosmos. While the moai stood as fixed points in a small island world, another culture was drawing lines across an entire continent. High in the Bolivian Andes, near the towering peak of the Nevado Sajoma volcano, lies the largest network of ancient lines on the planet. The Sajoma lines are a breathtaking web of thousands upon thousands of perfectly straight paths, etched into the stark landscape of the Altiplano. They cover an area of over 22,000 square kilometers, a vast expanse that dwarfs the more famous Nazca geoglyphs. From the ground, they appear as faint, persistent tracks, but from the air, their true scale and complexity are revealed. This is not a random scribble. The lines form a colossal geometric grid connecting ancient villages, sacred burial towers known as cholpas, and old colonial churches that were themselves built atop pre-Columbian holy sites. For a long time, the prevailing theory was purely practical. These were ancient roadways, paths worn straight over centuries by the feet of pilgrims and traders moving between settlements in the thin mountain air. This explanation makes perfect sense, yet it feels incomplete when you witness the sheer number of lines and their unwavering precision. Many run for dozens of kilometers in a perfectly straight line, ignoring gentle hills and valleys, a feature that suggests a purpose beyond simple foot travel. A deeper mystery emerges when you plot their orientations on a map. Researchers have found that a significant number of these lines are not randomly directed. They possess clear astronomical alignments. Certain lines point directly to the rising or setting position of the sun during the solstices. Others seem to target important stars or constellations that held spiritual significance for the local Aymara people. This transforms the entire network from a simple transportation grid into a potential celestial map of monumental proportions. Imagine standing at the center of this web. On the morning of the winter solstice, you could walk one specific line and watch the sun rise directly ahead of you, its rays perfectly channeled by the path. On the summer solstice, a different line would guide your gaze to the sun's setting point. The entire landscape becomes a dynamic, interactive calendar, with each line acting as a pointer to a specific cosmic event. This was not a project undertaken by a single village. The scale implies a coordinated effort across generations, a shared cultural understanding that the order of the heavens should be mirrored in the order of the earth. The Sejoma lines represent a different kind of astronomical genius, one that did not build towering stone circles or pyramids, but that instead inscribed its knowledge directly onto the face of the world, turning an entire region into a sacred, functioning observatory. Beneath the clear, turquoise waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island lies a mystery that divides geologists and archaeologists. A massive, singular rock formation emerges from the seabed, its sheer faces rising vertically for over 25 meters. Its surfaces are a geometric puzzle, featuring what appear to be perfect right angles, sharp-edged platforms, and immense stair-like terraces that descend into the deep blue. One section strikingly resembles a crude human face, while another looks like a vast, level plaza. To many who first see it, the Yonaguni monument looks unmistakably like the ruins of a sunken city. Could this be a remnant of a legendary lost continent like Mu or Lemuria, a civilization swallowed by the rising seas at the end of the last ice age? Proponents of this theory point to the structure's seemingly artificial symmetry. They argue that the clean, straight edges and the repetitive staircase pattern are far too orderly to be the product of random natural forces. The potential implications are staggering. If human hands carved this monument, it would mean a sophisticated culture with advanced stonemasonry and seafaring capabilities existed over 10,000 years ago, a time when humanity was supposedly living in simple hunter-gatherer societies. Such a culture would have needed a profound understanding of its world, very likely including the stars for navigation and calendrical purposes, knowledge lost when their world vanished beneath the waves. Yet the geological explanation offers a powerful counter-argument. The formation is composed of sandstone, a rock known to fracture along natural horizontal and vertical planes. The strong ocean currents in the area, along with years of seismic activity, could have eroded the stone along these existing joints, creating the remarkably clean, blocky appearance we see today. The so-called face and other features could simply be pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see familiar patterns in random shapes. This natural process can create deceptively artificial-looking structures without any human intervention. The debate remains unresolved, a true scientific standoff. The monument sits at a depth that would have been above sea level during the last glacial maximum, when ocean levels were much lower, making human construction at least physically possible. But without definitive proof like carvings, tools, or other artifacts found in direct association with the structure, the mystery endures. Is Yonaguni a ghostly echo of a forgotten world? Or is it one of nature's most incredible and deceptive masterpieces? the answer remains submerged, waiting for a discovery that could rewrite human history or confirm the awesome, sculpting power of the natural world. These enigmatic figures gaze out from cave walls deep within the Sahara. The Tassili en-Najer Plateau in Algeria is a vast open-air art gallery, a labyrinth of sandstone rock shelters preserving over 15,000 petroglyphs and paintings. The art spans millennia, documenting a dramatic transformation. The oldest scenes depict a world that is almost unrecognizable today, a green and fertile Sahara teeming with giraffes, crocodiles, and herds of cattle, a land of lakes and rivers. This was no permanent desert, but a savanna that supported a thriving human population. Among these realistic animal scenes, however, are figures that defy easy explanation. They are known as the roundheads, named for their most striking feature, large, circular helmets or heads that lack any facial details. Their bodies are often featureless as well, sometimes appearing to be clad in a single, form-fitting suit. To modern eyes, they look less like hunters or shamans and more like astronauts or deep-sea divers, their forms bulky and unnatural. One particularly famous panel shows a row of these round heads, their large, globular heads dwarfing their bodies, creating an eerie, uniform presence. What were the artists trying to portray? Mainstream archaeology interprets these as ritualistic or symbolic representations. They could be stylized depictions of gods or spirits, perhaps shamans in a trance state, their heads swollen to signify spiritual power or altered consciousness. The lack of facial features might indicate they are not meant to represent individual people, but archetypes or divine beings. The suits could be body paint, elaborate costumes made of feathers or fibers, or simply an artistic convention lost to time. Yet the speculative theory is irresistible. Could these be literal records of encounters with otherworldly visitors? Proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis argue that the figures are too specific, too consistent, and too technologically suggestive to be mere symbolism. They point to what appear to be hoses or cables connecting some figures to a central source, and to postures that suggest a weightless or unearthly movement. In this view, the artists were painting what they saw, documenting beings that descended from the sky in a time when the Sahara was a paradise. They were trying to make sense of advanced technology and beings so far beyond their understanding that they could only be rendered as gods in strange protective shells. The truth is likely woven from both threads. For a prehistoric human, any advanced technology would be indistinguishable from magic or divinity. A being clad in a reflective suit and a helmet, emerging from a shining metallic object, would be a god from the heavens. The artists may have been depicting such an encounter, but through the lens of their own spiritual worldview. The round heads of Tassili en-Najer stand as a silent, haunting question. Are we looking at the birth of mythology, the first attempts to conceptualize gods and spirits? Or are we looking at humanity's first eyewitness reports, a prehistoric document of contact with something not of this earth, painted on the walls of a world that would soon turn to dust? Nestled deep within the remote mountains of Qinghai Province in China, a collection of strange metallic conduits defies any simple explanation. These are the Baigong pipes, a mysterious network of rusted iron tubes found embedded in the rock of Mount Baigong. The pipes are not scattered randomly. They run in organized lines, some leading directly into a peculiar pyramid-shaped mountain, while others stretch down to the shores of a nearby saltwater lake. Their placement is so deliberate, so structured, that they appear to be part of a vast, ancient plumbing or ventilation system. The local legends are rich with speculation, speaking of an advanced civilization that once inhabited the area, leaving behind the skeletal remains of their technology. The most extraordinary claim came from initial, unofficial reports suggesting these pipes could be 150,000 years old. If true, this would place their creation in a period when Homo sapiens were just beginning their migration out of Africa, a time long before the invention of smelting, let alone the intricate metalworking required to create such forms. The implications are staggering, pointing to a prehistoric, technologically sophisticated society lost to deep time. However, official scientific analysis has poured cold water on this breathtaking timeline. Samples taken from the pipes were subjected to rigorous laboratory testing. The results dated the metal to a much more recent period, roughly 1,500 years old. Furthermore, geologists point out that the pipes are not embedded in solid, primordial rock as first believed, but in a type of sedimentary stone that can form relatively quickly. The official explanation suggests these may be the fossilized remains of tree roots, a natural phenomenon where minerals deposited by decaying vegetation can form tube-like structures that bear an uncanny resemblance to manufactured pipes. Yet, even with this rational explanation, the mystery does not fully dissolve. The tree root theory struggles to account for the sheer volume of piping, its organized layout, and the presence of what appear to be manufactured features like flanges and right angles. The debate over the Bagong pipes captures the very essence of a phenomenon known as OOP arts, or out-of-place artifacts. These are objects that seem to appear in a geological stratum or historical context where they simply do not belong, challenging our established understanding of the past. From the Koso spark plug to the main penny, these artifacts ignite our imagination because they represent a tantalizing possibility that human history is not a simple, linear progression from primitivism to advanced technology. They suggest that knowledge can be lost, that civilizations can rise and fall, and that our current timeline might be missing entire chapters of scientific achievement. We are drawn to these mysteries because they speak to a deep-seated desire to find evidence that forces a rewrite of the history books. They hint at a world where ancient metallurgists might have perfected iron alloys long before the Iron Age, or where engineers constructed complex systems that we have only just reinvented. The Bagong pipes, whether a spectacular natural formation or a genuine relic of a forgotten age, serve as a powerful symbol of that enduring quest. They remind us that the past is never fully settled, and that the next shovel of earth could always turn up something that makes us question everything we think we know. A hammer from the age of dinosaurs seems to defy every law of geology and history. In 1936, a couple walking along a creek near London, Texas, made a bizarre discovery. Protruding from a large, hardened rock was a wooden handle, and embedded within the stone itself was the head of an iron hammer. The rock was identified as Cretaceous, dating to a time over 100 million years ago, an era when the last dinosaurs walked the earth. The hammer itself looked surprisingly modern, a tool that would not seem out of place in a 19th-century blacksmith shop. For those who challenged the conventional timeline of human evolution, this was the ultimate smoking gun. Here was undeniable proof, they argued, that humans and dinosaurs coexisted. The London hammer, as it became known, was heralded as an out-of-place artifact that could rewrite all of history, placing a technologically capable humanity deep in the prehistoric past. The creationist claim was powerful in its simplicity. A tool found in rock that predates humanity by millions of years must be evidence of a cataclysm like the Great Flood. The implications were staggering, suggesting our entire understanding of deep time was a colossal error. Science, however, offers a different and more nuanced explanation for this apparent impossibility. The key lies in the nature of the rock itself. It is not a solid, primordial layer of the Cretaceous period, but a concretion. Concretions form when mineral cement precipitates and hardens around a nucleus, which can be any foreign object, including a lost hammer. This process can happen relatively quickly, especially in mineral-rich environments like a creek bed. The iron from the hammerhead would have actually accelerated the process, acting as a chemical catalyst that drew minerals from the water to form a hard, stone-like shell around it in a matter of decades, not millennia. The wooden handle, protected from decay inside this mineral casing, was preserved. Laboratory analysis confirmed this, showing the rock was a limestone concretion with modern chemical signatures. The hammer was simply a tool lost by a miner or settler in the 19th century, perhaps in the 1800s, that nature had encased in a deceptive stone jacket. The London hammer serves as a perfect cautionary tale about the interpretation of anomalies. Our desire to find evidence that shatters established paradigms is powerful, but it must be tempered by rigorous scrutiny. It highlights how easily we can be misled by natural processes that mimic immense age. Yet, the enduring fascination with this humble hammer speaks to something deeper in the human psyche. We are captivated by objects that seem to break the rules, that whisper of forgotten worlds and lost knowledge. Even when debunked, they remind us that our past is filled with mysteries, and that the line between a mundane explanation and a world-altering discovery is often thinner than the stone around an ancient-looking hammer. A farmer's confession should have ended the mystery forever. In the 1960s, a Peruvian physician named Javier Cabrera was presented with a curious andesite stone, carved with what looked like an extinct fish. This single gift sparked a lifelong obsession, leading him to amass a collection of over 15,000 similar stones. They were covered in intricate, grooved images, but these were not typical ancient scenes. The Ica stones depicted humans living alongside dinosaurs, creatures like Triceratops and Stegosaurus shown in clear, dynamic detail. Other carvings illustrated complex astronomical charts and what appeared to be advanced medical procedures, including open-heart surgery and cesarean sections. If authentic, these stones would have rewritten human history, proving a forgotten civilization possessed biological and astronomical knowledge lost for eons. The mystery, however, unraveled in 1975 when a local farmer named Basilio Ashuya confessed. He admitted that he and his family had carved the stones themselves using simple metal tools and then aged them by baking them in cow dung. He demonstrated the process for reporters, creating a new fake in a matter of hours. The entire collection, he said, was an elaborate hoax crafted for the lucrative tourist trade. The case appeared closed, a simple story of deception and gullibility. Yet a stubborn question lingers. Why did Dr. Cabrera, an educated man, become so convinced? He argued that the sheer volume and complexity of the carvings, some showing anatomical and astronomical details he felt a simple farmer could not possibly know, pointed to a core of genuine artifacts. He claimed the farmer's confession was a way to avoid prosecution for selling national heritage items. This debate touches on something deeper than archaeological authenticity. The enduring fascination with the Ica stones reflects a powerful human yearning, a desire to believe in a lost golden age. We are drawn to the idea that ancient people were not primitive, but possessed a wisdom that rivaled or even surpassed our own. The stones became a canvas for our collective imagination, projecting a vision of a time when humanity lived in harmony with giants and mapped the heavens with perfect clarity. They are a testament to our hope that the past holds profound secrets, waiting just beneath the surface for the right person to uncover them. A structure older than the wheel stands silent on a Turkish hilltop. Göbekli Tepe was built around 9600 BC, a staggering 6.5 millennia before the Great Pyramid of Giza. This is not a simple settlement, but a vast, sophisticated temple complex of ringed enclosures, each defined by colossal, T-shaped limestone pillars weighing up to 20 tons. The people who erected this marvel were not farmers living in cities. They were hunter-gatherers, nomads who should have been focused solely on survival in a world just emerging from the last ice age. Yet they came together to quarry, transport, and raise these monumental stones, carving them with an artist's hand. The surfaces are a menagerie of ancient wildlife, a chaos of foxes, scorpions, birds, and snarling predators. For decades, these carvings were seen as mere totems, spirit animals for a primitive religion. But a revolutionary new interpretation is emerging from the stone. What if these animals are not just symbols but a star map? Researchers have begun to match the specific creatures on the central pillars with known constellations as they would have appeared in the sky above Turkey 11,500 years ago. The scorpion corresponds to Scorpius, the bird to Cygnus, the fox to a now obsolete constellation near the south celestial pole. The entire complex, with its rings of pillars oriented in specific directions, may have functioned as a colossal observatory, a stone computer designed to track the precession of the equinoxes and the movements of the stars. The most startling theory connects this celestial knowledge to a global cataclysm. Carvings on one pillar, known as the vulture stone, seem to tell a story. It depicts a scorpion, a bird, and a headless man, alongside a series of symbols that some researchers argue represent a comet breaking into multiple pieces. This event, they propose, was a real comet impact that struck the Earth around 10,900 BC, an event scientists link to the sudden onset of the Younger Dryas period, a 1,000-year mini-ice age that plunged the planet back into glacial cold. The builders of Göbekli Tepe, this theory suggests, were not just stargazers, they were survivors. They may have witnessed a world-shattering event from the heavens and then built this monument to warn future generations, to track the skies for the return of such a disaster, and to create a fixed point of ritual and knowledge in a terrifyingly unstable world. This idea turns our understanding of history upside down. We have always believed that agriculture came first, that the stability of farming allowed for the leisure to develop religion, astronomy, and complex society. Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite. It implies that a shared, catastrophic astronomical event and the desperate need to understand the cosmos may have been the very spark that brought hunter-gatherers together. The drive to build a temple to monitor the heavens could have been the catalyst that forced humans to settle, to organize, and ultimately, to invent farming to feed the workers building the world's first known temple. This single site rewrites the origin of civilization itself, placing the fear and wonder of the stars at the very heart of the human story. Far from the monumental stones of Göbekli Tepe, a living culture in the West African nation of Mali holds a celestial secret that challenges our understanding of human knowledge. The Dogon people have preserved an astronomical tradition for centuries, one that speaks with unnerving accuracy about a star we cannot see without powerful telescopes. Their oral traditions and intricate sand drawings describe the brightest star in our sky, Sirius, not as a single point of light but as a binary system. They teach that Sirius, which they call Sigwi Tolo, has a tiny, incredibly dense and invisible companion star they name Po Tolo. This companion, they say, is made of a metal heavier than all the iron on Earth, and it travels in a 50-year elliptical orbit around the primary star. Modern astronomy confirms every detail of this description. Sirius B is a white dwarf star, a stellar remnant so dense that a single teaspoon of its matter would weigh many tons. It is indeed invisible to the naked eye, and its orbit around Sirius takes almost exactly 50 years. The Dogon knew this long before Western science identified Sirius B in the 1860s and confirmed its nature in the 1920s. The question is how one explanation points to cultural contamination. In the 1930s, French anthropologists Marcel Grioul and Germain Dieterlen lived with the Dogon and recorded their cosmology. Skeptics argue that these Western visitors, or perhaps missionaries or colonial officials before them, could have introduced the modern astronomical knowledge of Sirius B to the tribe. The Dogon, in this view, incorporated this new information into their existing myths, creating a retroactive mystery where none existed. The anthropologists, eager to find profound indigenous wisdom, may have unintentionally guided the Dogon's responses or misinterpreted their symbolism. This is a clean, logical solution that keeps our historical timeline intact. Yet, the alternative explanation is far more provocative. The Dogon insist their knowledge is ancient, passed down through countless generations from their ancestors. They say this wisdom was given to them by amphibious beings called the Nommo, who came from the Sirius system thousands of years ago. Could this be a garbled memory of contact with a highly advanced seafaring civilization now lost to history, a culture that possessed optical technology far beyond what we believe was possible? Or does it point to something even more extraordinary, an early encounter that seeded this precise astronomical data into human culture? The controversy endures because it forces us to confront the fragility of history. If the cultural contamination theory is correct, it reveals how easily a modern idea can be mistaken for an ancient one. But if the Dogon truly preserved this knowledge independently for millennia, it suggests that humanity's relationship with the stars is far older and far more mysterious than any textbook has ever dared to admit. From the celestial machinery of the Antikythera device to the star charts carved at Göbekli Tepe, these 25 cases paint a breathtaking panorama of ancient genius. We have journeyed across continents and millennia, witnessing calendars that rival our own, mechanisms that compute planetary motion, and monuments that transform entire landscapes into cosmic clocks. Some of these mysteries, like the Koso artifact or the Ica stones, reveal the power of natural processes or human hoaxes to create tantalizing illusions. Yet so many others, from the Nebra sky disks' encoded cycles to the precise alignments of the Giza pyramids, stand firm against all easy explanations. They are not isolated curiosities, but a chorus of unanswered questions. Collectively, they point to profound gaps in our historical narrative, suggesting that the timeline of human discovery is not a straight line, but a story with missing chapters, perhaps even entire lost volumes of scientific insight. So we are left with one final, haunting thought. Were our ancestors simply brilliant observers, patiently unraveling the secrets of the natural world over countless generations? Or is it possible that they were the beneficiaries of a deeper well of knowledge, a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos that has since vanished from the Earth, leaving behind only these ghostly echoes in stone and metal? The answer may be forever out of reach, but the wonder it inspires is very real. Let us know in the comments which of these ancient mysteries captivates you the most, and if you enjoyed this journey into the unexplained, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the hidden corners of our past.